how can we, as a nation of people, get back on God's good side?
Come on.
Because when you read the Bible, you realize the Israelites weren't always in captivity.
That's right.
We weren't always at the bottom.
Right.
We were set up to rule this planet as young men and as our queens and princesses. So how can we get back? Remember how we got put in this situation? How did slavery happen? Why did God put us through slavery? Because that was the first thing we went over. Because we didn't listen. Right. So what do you think would be the reverse to get back on top? Would be the what? To listen to this Bible.
But it shall come to pass.
Which means when this was written, it hadn't happened yet. So Moses is speaking to the children of Israel. He said, it will come to pass
if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So it says if the children of Israel didn't hearken or listen to the voice of God, where do we find God's voice? In the Bible. So if we didn't listen to what was written in the Bible, something would happen to the children of Israel.
To observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day.
So we were supposed to do all the commandments listed in the Bible. Read.
That all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
So it says all these, if we didn't listen to the Bible, what God told us to do, that all these curses would come upon us. So is a curse a good thing or a bad thing, Darren? It's a bad thing. So what bad things happened to the children of Israel? So we're going to read a few of these curses and identify who the children of Israel really are today. So let me get verse 32.
Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
So when were our sons and daughters given to another people, sis? Miss Shauna, when did that happen? Do you have any idea in history? Let me show you right here. Check this out right here. So in slavery, when we came over here on cargo slave ships, once we got off those ships, the families were split up. Like, let's say we were a big family right here. I would be sold to somebody in Georgia. You'd be sold to somebody in Florida. He would go to somebody in West Virginia. That's how our sons and daughters would be given unto another people. Because we were sold as property, as cattle, as slaves. Read on.
Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people. And thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long.
So, if somebody came and took your nephew away, would you just sit back and let it happen? No, you would fight. So it says that we tried, but we looked. We didn't have no might in our hand to go save our loved ones. So our sons and daughters were indeed given it unto another people. And to bring it up to today, if somebody thinks that you're mistreating your child, they'll come into your home, Child Protective Services, they'll call them on you, and they'll come and take your child away. And it might not be that you were abusing them, you could just be spanking them according to the Bible. But another nation of people say, no, you gotta put them in timeout. I wasn't raised on timeout. Timeout didn't work in my household. I got whooped. I got whooped with a switch, with belts, those type of things. So it says if they don't like that, they could come in and take your family members away. And 12 years of slave roots, stuff like that. You saw them come and take our family members away. What was his name? Kunta Kinte. He never went back to Africa to find his family. He stayed over here in America. Read on.
Verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thy enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee.
What did it say right there, sis? I want to make sure y'all listening and y'all comprehending what's the Bible bringing out.
Serve their enemies.
Okay, read that again from the top.
Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies.
So God said that the children of Israel would have to serve their enemies. So that means the children of Israel does have enemies today.
Right.
And it's nations of people living here. It's not Satan. It says that we will have enemies because it's going to show you what this enemy did to the children of Israel. Read on.
In hunger.
In hunger. So where do you like to shop at to get food, Miss Shonda? Walmart. That's where I go to. I go to Walmart. So does the CEO of Walmart look like you and me?
Figure it out.
Probably not. Let's say you went to Kroger. Does the CEO look like me or you? Let's say you go to Target. Because I'm trying to variety, you know. They're not going to look like us. It's going to be another nation of people ruling those things. And even in our own community. We'll have our people working there, but then it'll be owned by another nation of people. If you want wine or bread out of welcome food stores, more than likely it's owned by some Arab man. Read on.
In hunger and in thirst.
And in thirst. When you get thirsty, and you be like, okay, I need to hydrate. So I'm not gonna drink no soda right now. We're just gonna focus on water. Because water falls free from the sky, right? It's rain. You can collect that and drink it. In certain states, if you do that, you'll be fine. Right. So even in thirst, your enemy has a system set up to where you have to pay for something that God falls from the sky.
Right.
Read.
And in nakedness.
And in nakedness. That shirt that you got on. That shirt that you got on. Do we own the textile mills that makes that cotton, that makes that shirt? But wasn't our ancestors working? I want y'all to look at this bottom picture all the way down here, right here. Our ancestors picked cotton, sun up to sundown.
Right.
I'm talking about from the oldest to the youngest. They out there pricking their fingers. They getting whipped, forced to eat to pick cotton. And then we still don't even own any textile mills today. And it doesn't matter if you're a multi-billionaire, if you're me, if you're broke in the hood. Because Kanye, he had to deal with Adidas. He still didn't own those textile mills, and what happened? They cut his deal off when he spoke up for his people.
Right.
So that's how come you know that we're still in captivity today. Read on.
And in want of all things.
And in want of all things. When you were born, Darius, was you there for his birth? So when you was there, what was the first thing after he was born that the doctors came in there and made you do? Maybe not the first thing, maybe a couple days afterwards, but you had to get something for him. Social Security is one, but also a birth certificate to prove that he was born, even though you can see him growing up. He had to have a Social Security card to say that he actually is alive, but you can see that he's alive. And when somebody dies, you have to get a death certificate. Do you go to a person that looks like me or him to go get a birth certificate? No, it's our oppressor. We have to go to our enemies in the want of all things, in the want of religion. When you want to know what God looks like, where did you have to go? You had to go to the church, right? You had to go to the church, a church that 9 times out of 10, I almost said 10 times out of 10, but sometimes they say they ain't got an image in there. We gotta, trust their words. But 9 times out of 10, you'll see this guy up in the church. Because when I was raised, this guy was on a window. Right. They had him in the little window pane. His name is Caesar Borgia. This is actually a man that walked the earth. Was he Christ? Was he Jesus? No. So if you're looking for a man like this to come back and save our people out of the conditions that we're in, you won't see it. Because you have to think to yourself, if this is the man that's coming back to save us, doesn't he look like a lot like the same people that put us through this? So how can you be the oppressor and our savior? No other nation of people, every other nation of people has a God that looks like them.
Right.
Only we have another image of set up for us. And I can prove that out the Bible too. Finish this out.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
So if you was wondering who this enemy was that God was talking about in the Bible, it said what?
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
So who put chains on whose neck? What's the nation of people that had chains around their necks? It was us, right? Who put those chains on our necks, sis? Who did it? The so-called white man. But no, it wasn't just the so-called white man. Because we like to say it's the so-called white man, but check this out right here. This has also happened to us. This so-called Arab man. They had us in chains as well. That's where you get that, because most of the time you see the people, the rappers and stuff, they go to jail and stuff. When they come back, what do they say they believe in? They say they Muslim. Well, those are the 2 biggest religions on the face of the earth.
Right.
Why is that? Get that for me out the Bible. Let me get that. I think that's verse 44. Yep.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 64. And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people.
So it says, I love that part. It says that the Lord will scatter us amongst all people. How did the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans get scattered today? Because you can find out people all around the world. In Antarctica, you'll find a black man. In China, you'll find a black man.
Right.
In Japan, you'll find a black man. So how did we get scattered everywhere? Slavery.
That's right.
Read on.
And the Lord shall scatter thee among all people, from one end of the earth even unto the other.
Read.
And there thou shalt serve other gods.
So it says when we got to these places, and we're going to find out the mode of transportation very soon. It says when we get to them other places, we would serve other gods. Read.
Which neither thou nor thy fathers have known.
So it means that it would be new gods that we would serve that was never given to us as the children of Israel.
Right.
Because we serve the one true living God. Read.
Even wood and stone.
It says even wood and stone. Right there he's telling you what those other two gods is. Because when they came over here, shout out to my Northern Kingdom brothers. When they came over here, what did they make us do? The conquistadors, the Spaniards, made Northern Kingdom, which would be it would be from Ephraim down. They burned them at the cross.
Right.
At the cross, and the cross is made out of what? Wood. It was made out of wood back then, but now we see people with crosses made out of metal. But
Right.
back then it was made out of wood. So that's what that other God. It would be Christianity. Man-made religions. It would be Christianity. Christianity is man-made. I showed it to him. Now let me see that. No, read the other part again. I meant to see back.
Which neither thou nor thy fathers have known. Even wood and stone.
Wood and stone. So we already established that the wood goes into the cross, which goes into Christianity. So what's the second biggest religion on the planet to where they worship a stone?
Right, bring it out.
I want y'all to think a little bit. What you got, Miss Shonda?
We got Christianity,
Christianity goes into the cross. Muslim, because they worship what stone?
That's right.
The cobblestone.
Right.
A meteorite that fell. They go over there, they say, oh, I gotta go to Mecca. I gotta go and make a Hajj. They go over there and they fight each other to go kiss and worship a rock. When the first commandment out the Bible is, have no other God before me.
That's right.
So that's how come our people are lost today in Christianity and in being a Muslim, following after their oppressors.
Right.
So let me ask you a question, Darius, because we already established, hold on, let me get Deuteronomy 28 and verse 60, because like I said, I'm going to show you the mode of transportation is where we got to all these various places. So how did we come to America?
Boats.
On boats. I'm going to show you that in the Bible right now. The pastor has never read the scripture to you. I know they haven't, because they never had read it to me. Read this.
Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
So the Lord says he'll bring the children of Israel into Egypt again. So when we were in Egypt, what was the status of the Israelites?
Bring it
Were we
out.
the pharaohs, the kings, the priests? What were we doing?
slaves.
We were slaves in Egypt.
That's
we
right.
were building up Pharaoh's cities. We was the bottom of the bottom. So right there where God says he'll bring us into Egypt again, he's not actually talking about the place of Egypt.
Right.
He's talking about our status in Egypt. So he'll put us in bondage again. Get that real quick in Exodus chapter 20.
Exodus chapter 20, verse 2. I am the Lord thy God, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage.
Out of bondage, out of slavery, out of captivity. So God said that he'll put us into Egypt or slavery again. Go back.
Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
So he'll bring us into slavery again. Listen to this.
With ships.
With what?
With ships.
No, with a plane.
With ships.
With a train.
With ships.
With ships. That's our history in the Bible. So when you bring it up today, we know that we went into slavery on ships. So you know that we are the Israelites today.
That's right.
So our question is, we see all the atrocities happening to our people. We see the so-called YNs today with the ski masks in Florida. It's hot. Ain't nowhere to ski at in Florida. Brothers running around with a ski mask on, clutching stuff. So how can we, as a nation of people, get back on God's good side?
Come on.
Because when you read the Bible, you realize the Israelites weren't always in captivity.
That's right.
We weren't always at the bottom.
Right.
We were set up to rule this planet
That's
as young
right.
men and as our queens and princesses. So how can we get back? Remember how we got put in this situation? How did slavery happen? Why did God put us through slavery? Because that was the first thing we went over. Because we didn't listen. So
Right.
what do you think would be the reverse to get back on top? Would be the what? to listen to this Bible. Okay, finish this out. Yep.
By the way whereof I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again.
So the thing that the children of Israel wouldn't see no more again would be our homeland. So when we ask our people, where are we from, what do we like to say? Well, I'm from Africa, right? But no, we're from Israel.
Right.
That's our homeland. So if we're the children of Israel and we're supposed to be in Israel, but it's another nation of people in Israel, those can't be the Israelites.
That's right.
And all these curses that we just read out the Bible do not fit no other nation of people. So it says that we would see our homeland no more again. Read.
And there ye shall be sold unto your enemies.
So when we got off those cargo slave ships, we were sold to our enemies. We were sold to the so-called white man. We were sold to the so-called Chinese man, to the so-called Arab. Once you start to read this Bible, you realize that every other nation of people, besides the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, had a hand in our captivity, our slavery, in some form or fashion. We're still slaves today in Libya. Our people are still slaves. You know you can still buy a human being right now in Libya? Our people are being taken away from their homelands and still being sold into slavery.
Right.
So slavery never ended. They just say it was abolished. They just put a new spin on it. Finish this out.
And there you shall be sold unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen.
So that's exactly what happened. We were sold for bondmen, slave men, and slave women. Read.
And no man shall buy you.
And where it says no man shall buy you, it's not talking about like actual buying, because when we was on the auction blocks, they sold us off. Where it says no man will buy you, meaning that no man will save us. No man can save us out of this condition.
Right.
Because think about it, in history, who did we have? We had Martin Luther King, we had Marcus Garvey, we had Malcolm X,
right.
And they all tried different forms of fashion of saving their people. Martin Luther King, he tried a peaceful way approach to attend to their soft side, but he realized that our oppressors don't have a soft side when it comes to the children of Israel. Malcolm X tried it by force. He tried the Muslim religion. That didn't work. And then Marcus Garvey tried economics. The only person that can save us out of this captivity is Jesus Christ. Right. The true Jesus Christ. The one that looks like me and you.
Shalom, Israel. This is Bishop Nathaniel. I want you to know that you can view all our Sabbath classes live on IUIC TV. That's right, I said on IUIC TV. Download the app today. Shalom.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation is you. It's nation time.
And finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord. His word